I was lucky because of the work that I've been doing in schools and trying to find materials and creating materials. I had a pretty good idea of what was out there and where the resources are. And so I was able to start with those in mind and kind of talk to people in the community and thought about, because it's a short time, it's not a giant pool of money. And in my mind, I thought, how can I leverage this money to reach the largest number of people in the most accessible and interesting ways? Because sometimes very well researched histories can tend to be written for academics and without thinking about access to the general public. So that's really what I wanted to do. And so I thought about what were really important things for people to know about who the Salish, Pend d'Oreille, and Kootenai people are, who they were and who they are. And I thought one important thing, particularly in the context of Montana, with all the tribes here and 7 reservations, I thought there's a general misunderstanding about land and Aboriginal territory. If we look at length of history and the tribes in the state, most of the tribes came here. And what, if you consider from time immemorial to when, the Crow and Cheyenne and other folks came here, that's pretty contemporary history. And so the Pend d'Oreille and the Salish and the Kootenai people, this is an old tribal world. This is a really old tribal world for us. And that's really powerful to me. And so I'm sitting here in this really old tribal world where my relatives have always been. And it's such a beautiful and powerful thing to me, and that I want young people to know that. I want people to know that, and I want them to know about the beauty of having a relationship that is so intimate with a place that is so intimate, that this place has spiritually and intellectually and physically and emotionally taken care of all of my cultural ancestors and my family, to myself, to my daughter and son, to my little Yaya. And so I thought that story of land, kind of telling our history through the land, was important. I've been driving around the state with Johnny Arley and Francis Vandenberg in an old SUV from SKC that has over 200,000 miles on it. And so we've been driving around and stopping at places and then talking about the place name, because some of the places are from coyote stories. And so they go back to how we explain how the world came to be. And some of these places, there's a place, when you go down out of Missoula into the Bitterroot, there's a place that has a more contemporary name because it's after the 1700s when we had horses. That is means like when you're riding, when you're riding a horse and you're heading home or you're getting to the barn, then you have to hold them back because they know and they want to go home. That was the place for the Salish. There's a place there where the horses knew that they were close to being home, and so it was a place where you had to kind of rein them in or hold them back. That is so beautiful. I guess it's beautiful to me that the landscape was like that for people, that it was so intimate, that they knew it that way, and that they had names like that for it. And so I thought that for young people in my community, I want them to know about those stories so that when they go and stand there, they know about their relatives, that this is how they used this place and this is what they did here, and that they could imagine, they could imagine what it was like for their relatives when a long time ago. And that's how I think when I go out to the buffalo country in Montana, because that was our Aboriginal hunting ground. And I think about it, what it must have been like when people lived in that time, because it was such a beautiful way of living.